And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Hi there, I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska marine weather outlook that'll take us into Monday and Tuesday of this week ahead. Starting though with the sea ice edge as of this Sunday afternoon. We've had ice here back in through areas of Kuskokwim and Bristol Bays, though a push, a southwesterly, south and southwesterly push of some milder air a bit above freezing will cause some melting along the edge of the pack ice. And of something to keep in mind is that the weather pattern change we're going to experience by next weekend. While we're going to have a couple of fronts move inland with southwesterly flow and milder temperatures, by next weekend winds are going to come down out of the north, northeast, and then northwesterly across the Alaska Peninsula. So we do expect the ice to advance southward next weekend with that colder air and windier conditions. We've even seen some ice redevelop in areas of Cook Inlet due to the colder temperatures here earlier this weekend. But here comes the next front late tonight into early Monday morning. Secondary low developing just southwest of Kodiak Island. Main low is back out here in the northern portion of the Bering Sea. And this front will continue pushing inland across the interior. With it, there is a band of snow. Some areas down here along, get inland from, say, Kuskokwim, Bristol Bays, west arm of the Alaska Range. Could pick up maybe 3 to 6 inches of snow with some blowing and drifting snow. Snow up this way along Norton Sound, the lower Yukon Delta, St. Lawrence will be lighter, maybe a couple inches of snow with winds gusting 30, 40 miles an hour, creating some areas of blowing snow. But the pattern is going to be changing and becoming more active across the Gulf. So that secondary low is going to get a little better organized east of Kodiak Island Monday afternoon. And here comes the next North Pacific low that'll track northeastward, kind of join forces with this by the time we get into Tuesday. And then, of course, this front's going to push eastward into the northeastern Gulf Coast and Panhandle. So first, Yakutat area will be picking up some more accumulating snow, perhaps 4 to 6 inches of snow later Monday night into Tuesday, and then during the day, Tuesday into Tuesday night, more snow pushing up into areas of the Panhandle. So the pattern will be getting more active in this region. The other thing to note, Arctic air is building up along the Canadian Arctic and Alaskan Arctic coastlines. And by late in the week, starting Friday, some of that cold air is going to be spilling south-southwestward down along the west side of the state and then eventually the mainland. So we are going to be trending colder across areas of the mainland here as we go through next week into early the following week. So the marine forecast for the inner channels, the outflow gap winds won't be as strong as what they were earlier in the weekend. Northwest winds 10 to maybe as high as 20 knots there, Stevens Passage. Waves running a few feet. And then for along the coast of the Gulf for the nearshore waters, still some sort of east-northeast, southeast flow, 15 knots, swells around 4 or 5 feet. Winds are going to pick up on the outer coast on Tuesday as that front approaches. For the inner channel, southeast to south winds 10 to 15 knots, waves running 2-3 feet, highest up here toward Lynn Canal. And then look for southeast to east winds around 25 knots with 6 to 8 foot swells along the Panhandle coast on Tuesday, with increasing precipitation moving in with that front. Now, for Monday, we have an area of low pressure that's going to be situated, developing here just on the east side of Kodiak Island. So we expect easterly flow. Hinchinbrook entrance there, 20 knots, waves 5-6 feet. Easterly, 15 knots within Prince William Sound, few foot waves. Northeast to east winds, 25 to 30 knots through Lower Cook Inlet, with waves there running about 7-8 feet. As that low moves out here into the western Gulf on the backside, we have northeast winds within Prince William Sound at 20 knots with 4-foot waves. Along and off the Kenai coast, east to north winds 25 knots with swells 6 to 8 feet. And then middle and lower Cook Inlet, north winds of 25 knots on Tuesday with waves of 6 to 7 feet. For Monday, low taking shape here on the east side of Kodiak Island, so winds ahead of it, southeast to east. On the backside, winds try to turn around to the west-southwest around 20-25 knots. Waves 4 to 7 feet on the North Pacific side, and once you get outside of the ice of Bristol Bay, 3 to as high as 8 feet north of Cold Bay. And for Tuesday, we find winds northerly through Shelikof Strait, northwesterly on the east side of Kodiak Island, variable east of Chiknik, and then winds westerly around 20 knots through the lower half of the Alaska Peninsula with waves 3 to as high as 6 feet on the North Pacific side and 4 to 7 feet on the Bering side. Across the Aleutian chain, southwest winds around 30 knots all the way from Unalaska through about Kiska. But once you get west of Kiska, look for westerly gales to 35 knots there at Shemya. And for Tuesday, winds in the eastern Aleutians will be west-southwest 15 to 20 knots, pulling back to the southeast to south 15 to 20 knots through east of Kiska. And then once you get west of Kiska, southeast winds to 25 knots. So nothing too strong there. And along the southwest coast Monday, with that front pushing inland, we have south-southwest winds around 20-25 knots. So the ice may melt a bit and retreat where we have temperatures a bit above freezing down here along the southwest coast. And further inland, winds ahead of the trough or front will still be southeasterly 20 knots there within Norton Sound. For Tuesday, the winds are going to fall off. We have east to southeast winds 10 to 15 knots all along from Bristol Bay up along the lower Yukon Delta. Southerly winds within the wider expanse here of Norton Sound. And then back out here, we see the low pressure circulation near and just northwest of St. Matthew. South winds there at 25 knots, west winds to 25 knots at St. Paul. Now south of the Bering Strait, look for southeast to south winds 15 to 20 knots on Monday with ice in place. Easterly winds lower Chuck GC, northeast to east at 25 knots. And then strongest winds up around Wainwright to 30 knots out of the east. Along the Arctic coast, look for east-northeast winds 20 to 25 knots. And coming into Tuesday, east-northeast winds continue along the Arctic coast 15 to 20 knots as we get near Wainwright and down through Point Lay and Cape Lisburne. This area here could see east to northeasterly gales to 35 knots. And then the lower Chuck GC, kind of a mix of winds in the 15-knot range before they go back to the north-northeast at around 15 to 20 knots from the west side of the Seward Peninsula to the north side of St. Lawrence Island.